In the shadow of the Italian Alps, just north of a sleepy town called Monza, lies the Temple of Speed and the Italian Grand Prix, and we are here for round 8 of the IRL F1 League. It's Gareth and Sab in the commentary box, as usual, every Monday night. How you doing, buddy? Good to see you again.
Yeah, good to be back. Yeah, that was a great introduction, by the way. It's good to be back. The Temple of Speed, like you say, Monza tonight. What a race circuit we've got around here. Last week, Hercules gave us an absolutely superb, dominating evening, didn't he? He absolutely smashed qualifying and then went out and just ran away with it in the race and claimed yet another victory. That 100% winning streak goes on, doesn't he? And he's here tonight, racing again around here. He'll have it very tough, I'm sure, because the championship leader, John Palainen, he found it tough last week, not scoring any points, so I'm sure he'll be wanting to rectify that and get back onto the top step again. So hopefully tonight we'll have a real mouth-watering race on our hands.
Absolutely. 19 drivers in the race this evening. Unfortunately, we are missing Simon, but he will be watching, I'm sure, and we are in store for an absolute barnstormer of a race. We always have absolutely thrilling races here around what is one of the most iconic circuits on the F1 calendar, and not even on the F1 calendar, across the world. This place is known from pillar to post across the planet for being just one of the best circuits, and it is really something special. Of course, it's twinned with the ever iconic Indianapolis over in the US as well, so it's one of those ones. You know that it's Italy, one of the only of 2 countries to have ever held a Formula 1 race in every year since Formula 1's inception in 1950, along with Great Britain. Held at Monza every year, apart from 1980, where it went over to Imola in San Marino, of course. 5.7 kilometres, 3.6 miles, as I said, just north of Milan. And, of course, the famous and passionate Tifosi showering the track in that scarlet red, screaming as the Ferraris pour down the main straight towards the ref video at turn 1. It's a 380-metre run from P1 down to that first corner, but at top speed the guys will be doing during the race will hit upwards of 228 miles an hour on the approach to turn 1. It's the fastest of the season, full throttle, 75% of the lap distance with 46 gear changes. You're not really slowing down apart from a couple of chicanes such as the Rettifilo della Roja and of course Ascari at the end of the lap. And it's, as I said, it's a low downforce track. These guys will be running super slick wings tonight. Expect to see those cars going as fast as possible down the straights. And really the race here, it's all, well, essentially you do not want to pick up any sort of damage early on because and we are in store for a big change, and very much like we saw in real life this year, it's absolutely hammering down here in Italy.
Yeah, wow, and it's full wets as well. There's not even intermediate, so yeah, it is proper drench, and this is our first taste, isn't it, this season of wet weather conditions. How are these guys going to do? This is going to throw a real spanner in the works of everybody in there because they'll have no doubt done most of their practicing in dry conditions. So now all the head scratching will start on the pit walls. Can somebody spring a surprise on us tonight and claim an unlikely pole position? And the also interesting fact is, will it be dry in the race? Because if it is, do some guys then favour a dry setup, sacrificing qualifying a little bit, or do they go and try and get that qualifying position with a wet setup and knowing that they might be a slightly compromised in the race? It's going to be absolutely fascinating to see what these guys do tonight.
Well, I can tell you exactly what's going to happen in the race because I've just had the weather report from the guys on the pit wall, and we're going to have a double wet session tonight. Ooh. We've got a full wet qualifying, and we go into a light rain to heavy rain race. So these guys tonight, I said they would be going the fastest they go all season. That's now unfortunately not the case. You're going to be finding these guys, they're out on the we very rarely see this season. Blue-walled high or extreme wet tyres, using as much groove to shift as much water as possible to get as much grip out of these slower exit corners like De La Roja. And it's corners tonight, Sam, like the Ascari chicane in the third sector. That's going to be a real dangerous one for these guys that are going to be right on the ragged edge of grip. And then equally, you're trying to get just that extra tenth. And of course, if you're trying to scrape and scratch your way towards those extra seconds, those extra tenths of a second, and of course, unfortunately, sometimes that all comes to tears when you're pushing that little bit too hard.
It does, and I don't know about you, but Ascari is, for me, very challenging in the dry. Never mind what it's going to be like for these guys tonight in the wet. I'm just on board with Warrislander at the moment in his McLaren, full wets, as you say. He's on his outlap at the moment. I'd imagine some of the guys will probably fuel up the car a bit tonight. Just do more than one lap. See where the drier lines will be, and see what they can do, and see if they can just get to grips with this extremely wet track, as we've also already got yellows out there. Warrislander coming round Parabolica now, and the Alfa Romeo coming round Parabolica there, wow, was pretty much sideways, and they'd not even started a lap yet, so we're in for one hell of a qualifying here.
We are indeed. I'm on board with Giuseppe in the Williams. I believe he was the first one to cross the line to start a flying lap. As you say, the practice that might be for these guys here is to just fill those cars up and just run around and get those tyres up to temperatures. Giuseppe struggles to get the car slowed down for De La Roja there, goes over the curbs, and that's going to hurt that lap time, and into the wall of Williams, lighting up the rear tyres, and that will end his lap early. He's lost the front left end plate of that Williams, and unfortunately just lit those tyres up, going deep into the corner, and as soon as he got on the power, it's always going to end up in tears. So now what we'll do is we'll check in with the likes of who's on a fast lap now. Klask in the Alfa Romeo. He's on the exit of the second Lesmo, as he's weaving those tyres side to side, as you can see, trying to get temperature into them, because it's going to be hard for these guys on this, even on this first flying lap. They're going to have to really push those tyres to get a little bit more temperature into them, because when it comes to the likes of Ascari, when it comes to the likes of breaking down into turn one, you need the tyres to be up to that optimum pressure, that optimum temperature, because otherwise you'll find yourself aquaplaning and skidding all over the shop, and as soon as you get onto the grass in the wet conditions like we see tonight, unfortunately that'll be curtains for you, and you'll find yourself sitting on the pit wall waiting for a lift back to the paddock, as Warrislander does the first flying lap of 1:30.8 as Klaas does a 32.8, so 2 seconds faster for Warris. Good lap there from him. And just to mention Warris, he of course during time trial is not really a comparison, obviously in course online, but he did manage to set the 45th fastest time ever on this game on the PS4. So Warris is definitely a driver to watch out for tonight.
He is. He's certainly the man to pull out a one-lap wonder, isn't he? I was riding on board with Warrislander, and even though it's currently the fastest, it still felt like he was tiptoeing around, and you could see the car always trying to twitch and squirm around as I'm just checking in on him again, and once again it was doing exactly the same. So it just shows you, even for the likes of Warrislander, who is mega fast around here, it's very difficult for him as well, as we see a few other times being set now. John Polainen, our current championship leader, he's up in second place with 1:31.5, with Harry not too far behind, just about a tenth behind John Polainen at the moment. And I just wanted to say welcome back to Beck 9000 as well. He's in the racing point tonight. He's just set a time of a 1:33.8 there. So at the moment, I just think we're just going to see times and positions changing throughout the whole of this qualifying session as these guys start to find the best lines around this circuit.
Absolutely, and as that fuel consumption is increased, as we see Hercules locking both tyres up into the rest of the video at the first corner, bumps himself over those sleeping policeman curbs, and that's his first flying lap scrubbed off, and he did 1:31.4, and he was probably going to be looking to go a little bit quicker on this lap, but unfortunately it's not going to happen. He's going to have to bail out of this one and go again. You can see already 1.4 seconds down, struggling into the braking, locking the tyres up again. So Hercules, and it's a driver that he's He's got a 100% win record when he's been here in the IRL F1 League, but unfortunately, it looks like he's starting to struggle in the wet conditions.
Yeah, it could well be that his kryptonite, so to speak, is this wet weather. I was just checking out FPL Charlie in the Mercedes. He's set his first flying lap in 1:31.8 at the moment. So a lot of guys out there in the 1:31s at the minute, and nobody really getting close to Warrislander this time. And Warrislander didn't really fancy staying out there too long. He's already back into the pit lane. So a lot of guys now starting to set their times. You've seen White Fountain there. He's just set his time with a 1:37.9. So clearly there was a mistake in his lap at one point there. So he got another yellow flag out there. And I imagine, Gareth, we might be seeing quite a few yellow flags for the next 10 minutes.
Yeah, I think there's probably going to be a little bit of work going on the for the marshals on the side, and equally for the guys in the stewards box, because if we get these same conditions come the race time, as you say, there is that yellow flag flashing up once again, sector 1 and 2. Probably just slow drivers, but equally drivers struggling to keep it on track at the likes of the De La Rocha and chicane. But Meg does a 42. That was invalidated, so the McLaren's going to have to go again. He's one of only 3 drivers yet to set a time. Can he get slowed down here for turn 1? That's much neater there for Meg through turn 1 and turn 2 through the Variante Retivillo. And now for Meg, it's that long, powerful stretch around Curva Grande in the dry. This is a wonderful corner to take, but you can see just how much he's having to tiptoe his way around the throttle as he heads down towards De La Rocha. And now this is a very tricky corner in the dry, let alone in the wet. Very easy to get on the bumps, very easy to get off on the curb. And as he does that, you can see just kicking the rear end out. And as soon as you've done that, you're pointing in the wrong direction. It puts you off into the puddle on offline, and that's where you'll find yourself aquaplaning off. You can see to the right-hand side of the track where Meg is there, just those puddles. He's going to want to keep himself on this racing line. You can see the slightly drier line compared to the right-hand side of the track. Now he's moving into that dry line. You can see there outside of the left-hand side of the track into Ascari. Can he get it slowed down and neatly turned in? It's just about, you can see him just really feathering the throttle there through that third sector corner, heading up now towards, of course, the infamous Parabolica. And he's going to get it slowed down, locks up ever so fractionally there, so it's not going to cost him too much time, but we'll see what Meg can do on this. I mean, he's just trying to put the power down just fractionally too early, but he's going to come across the line. What's the McLaren done? It's a 1:32.169, puts him just behind the Alfa Romeo in 14th position.
And at the moment, we have had a change of lead, and Warrislander is now down to 4th place. John Polainen, firstly, jumped right up there with a 1:30.6. Foxford not far behind either with a 1:30.7. And Eliar Luke there with a great lap for him, where 1:30.7 is, wow. Charlie there, riding on board of Charlie, he's bailed out of that, and I do not blame him. It was like watching Fast and Furious coming around Parabolica there. He was facing the inside of the curb more than going forward, and he's bailed out of that. But yeah, it's showing now that these guys are starting to get to grips more with this track now, these conditions, as we're starting to see more times being set in the 1:30 mark. And I wouldn't be surprised to end up seeing some of these guys at the low end of the 1:30s the way they're going at the moment.
CPI Alex got himself a good position at the moment, up in 5th position, so it's a good time there for the Toro Rosso driver. He's not had a great season so far, but a current banker lap of that 1:31.182 has got him up onto the 3rd row of the grid, ahead of Infinity, who's equally had a good lap. But the likes of Hercules, 7th position so far for him, so he's going to be looking to improve, as we'll check on board and see who else is out on track. We've got Scott on board on an outlap as well, and Scott, he's done quite nicely here in the past, here on Monday nights, and equally he was involved in just a frenetic battle a few seasons ago with Speed Queen. Speed Queen, of course, in 8th position at the moment. She managed to take that race win, and that was the end of season 6, and in fact that was the last time that she won a race on a Monday night, which is 38 races ago, which for a 3-time champion as Scott cuts the inside corner there, that's probably not going to help him. Well, unfortunately for him, it looks like he's on an outlap, but yeah, 38 races ago, Sab, for Speed Queen without on this winless run. And it's I mean, we've noticed this season that the talent increase was pretty substantial. You've had the likes of Hercules jump a line and join in, but that's going to have felt like a 38 stretch is going to feel like a 380 stretch for Speed Queen.
It really is, and what a lap. You mentioned Jumpline, and what a lap that was from Jumpline. Have you a 130 flat? I just said we might see down there, and I've just been riding on board with Harry, and that was a mega lap from him. He's just done a 130.6, and that would have put him on par with Jumpline, but Jumpline has absolutely nailed it there with a 130 flat. He has really set the benchmark for the rest of these guys tonight, because he's currently 6/10 faster than second place, so he's really getting down to business this week after what was a struggling week for him last week. But yeah, going back to what you were saying with Speed Queen, it is one hell of a jump, isn't it, in terms of the standards and the high standards we've got now in this league, and it just shows you the sort of levels you need to achieve now to be able to win races or even be able to get onto the podium, as we see Hercules now is starting to find his feet around this wet Monza track. He's now up into P2 with a 130.3, but still 3/10 off that mega Jumpline lap. So at the moment, with just about 5.5 minutes left to go, Jumpline has set a real benchmark for everyone to catch.
Absolutely, 3/10 of a second ahead of Hercules, who managed to jump up into second as White Fountain, just going on board. The Belgian driver kicks the rear end out in the exit of Lesmo 2. And he's going to cost himself probably that 3/10 of a second he was up on his lap there. He's now only down up 700 of a second. He's almost sideways through Ascari, still struggling to get on the power here. And you can see just how much the Belgian was struggling to get that car in a straight line, and he's bailed out of that lap, and he's going to have to start all over again. Luckily, just about to got it off track, and it didn't compromise Hercules, who's equally bailed out of it. But yeah, Fountain struggling in the conditions, and both him and his teammate Sam in 11th and 12th position. They're leading the Constructors' Championship at the moment, but outside of the top 10, and with a wet race bound to come for us afterwards, you're not going to have the advantage of starting on a fresh set of tyres. Everyone else, of course, will be on that same compound come the race.
Most certainly will. I'm trying to just catch on board with a few guys to see if anybody is going any quicker. At the moment, just nobody can get any quicker. I don't know whether the rain has got any heavier during the sessions got on, but at the moment I'm just trying to ride on. I've just riding on board with Sam there, and he was over 2.5 seconds off his time. So I'm just wondering whether the conditions have got slightly worse out there for everybody, because at the moment it doesn't seem to be like anybody can improve on what they're doing, and everybody is really struggling now. I was just riding on board with Sam there, coming out of the first corner, and he just could not get the power down, and the car was really twitching all over the track, so maybe conditions are starting to get a bit too tricky out there.
Yeah, you can see with 3 minutes 45 seconds left to go in the qualifying session that Jumpline and Hercules all in the pit stall, ready to come out and do one final lap. And Alex just about gets it slowed down there for De La Roja, and he's currently on to Lesmo 1 now, trying to keep it tight onto that apex. You can hear just how much he's having to come off that throttle pedal early. And now, of course, there's always going to run out wide, dip a tyre into the gravel, and that's going to cost you some time as well. And Alex in 8th position, and he's going to well, I don't know if this is going to be an improvement on that 131.1. We'll see what his split is. It's around about plus 0.1 of a second up on his best time, so he's going to have to improve big time at the end of the lap if he is to go any faster and challenge the likes of Warrislander, who's around about 2/10 faster than him currently. But Warris in the pit lane, as we've still got a couple of drivers due to come back out. Charlie in the pit lane, as you can see Elvin now starting to come out for an out lap. Alex is going to come across the line. Can he improve on this 131.1? He doesn't. It's 0.06 of a second slower. He's got 2 minutes and 30 seconds to have another go.
I was riding on board with Sam, as I said, and as I was saying, people are struggling. Sam goes, typically, and proves me all wrong, and he just went about 0.8 faster than his previous time, and that has promoted him just ahead of Warrislander, up into 7th place, so not a bad lap there for Sam, but I'm sure by Sam's standards, he would expect himself to be right up there. And one guy who's kind of snuck up there, and I didn't catch it, I'm not sure if you did, but Scott, boy better know, he's got himself himself up into P3 at the moment, just 3/100ths of a second faster than Harry. So yeah, it's really tight at the moment between like second downwards, but at the moment John Polainen is now on an outlap to maybe try and improve on that 130 flat. It just looks like he's out of reach of everybody, but hopefully I'm proven wrong in this next minute or so.
Hercules goes deep into turn 1, and that's going to cost him time. He's just, well, it's going to be close for him. He's going to have possibly around 10 seconds or in his pocket to get around and do one more lap after this one. So is he going to bail out of it and hope that no one else goes ahead of him? But yeah, he bails out through the De La Rocha, so we'll see if the German driver does stick with it. Where else? Who else have we got on track? We've got Harry, who is up at the moment. He's on the back stretch. He's currently going just under half a tenth faster as Sam retires from the session. He's not going any further forward than the 7th. We've got less than a minute left to go in the session. Harry coming up to the Parabolica now. Can he improve on that 130.663 or 0.3 or 0.03 of a second? We'll get him into third position. Can he improve? No, he doesn't. It's a 0.15 of a second slower on the exit, so he lost some time at the Parabolica, but he's equally got enough time to go and do one final flying lap. Jumpalainen is going even quicker in the Racing Point. He is a 10th and a half up on his time. He would get into the 129s at the moment on this pace. Can he get through Ascari cleanly? Runs over slightly, but it looks like he's just about managed to get away with it on the power at exactly the right point. That's nicely done there from the Finnish driver, and he's now heading up towards the Parabolica in the Racing Point. He's currently on provisional pole position. We've got 4 seconds left to go. We're about to expire on the session, so no more times will be able to be set after Jumpalainen comes across the line. Can he improve, get into the 29s? He does. It's a 1:29.897. Warislander cannot get to the top. It's a 1:30. He can only manage to get up into second position. Hercules is already almost a quarter of a second down, and where else? We've got Harry is only 100th of a second faster at the moment, so that's not even good enough to get him onto the second row of the grid unless he can really nail the parabolic. You can see a lot of drivers coming across the line as Foxy goes up onto the second row of the grid, a 1:30.196, fractionally off of the front row behind Warislander. But Harry coming across the line now. Can he improve on 6th position? He doesn't. It's only 6th for the Williams driver. We've got Hercules, as I said, was going slower, so we'll check in with Charlie. Can Charlie improve on his time? He's way down the field at the moment, and Charlie here, he's just come across the line. It's 12th position for the Mercedes driver. White Fountain equally, he's way down the order as well. He's coming up towards the Parabolica. He's going just under 0.4 of a second faster. Can he get himself up towards the thick of it when it comes to the top 10 and the faster drivers on the grid? White Fountain on the exit of the Parabolica now. Can the Belgian improve in the number 15 Haas car? He comes across the line. Fountain up into 10th position, fractionally ahead of his teammate. Those two split by 12 thousandths of a second.
I was riding on board with that White Fountain up, and to be honest, it looked like a good lap, but it just shows you, doesn't it, how competitive this wet session and how close this wet session has been. If you look there, between Harry and CPI Alex, there was 1,000th of a second difference between 7th and 8th place. It just shows you that how amazing this wet qualifying has been. John Polainen, I thought somebody might get a 1:30 flat and John Polainen just blow me out of the water with that, no pun intended, with the rain, and done a superb lap there to claim pole position. But yeah, that was an absolutely fascinating qualifying session.
You can see there, the Finnish driver, Jumpalainen, in the Racing Point, takes it with a 1:29.897, just under a 10th faster than Hercules, who managed to get himself up into second. In fact, we missed that Hercules, he was going slower, so he must have had an absolute rocket of a second sector. Warislander knocked down to third with Foxy Red 2000 alongside him. Eliar Luke, great qualifying session for the Ferrari, his best qualifying session so far, in 5th position. Scott in 6th, with Harry 7th. Alex is in 8th. Adri had a good session in 9th. Fountain rounds out the top 10 with Sam, Speed Queen, Charlie, Infinity, Meg, Class, Burmeister, Beck on his return, and Giuseppe rounds out the grid. And yeah, as you said, there were some drivers there that had some mightily close. Even Charlie and Infinity split by 0.004 of a second. So yeah, the drivers really really evenly matched tonight when it comes to the rain. You can see the rain's eased up somewhat, but it is still very much, by the looks of it, intermediate conditions this evening. So slightly easier compared to qualifying, where we saw a lot of standing water. But Sab, any sort of rain conditions will always throw up very, very difficult racing.
It will indeed, and especially the run down to this first corner here. It's usually tricky enough, isn't it, in the dry when you've got 18 and 19 cars trying to fall into that tight first and second corners, and then running round that long sweeping right-hander. God knows how it's going to play out for the guys in these wet conditions. As you say, it does look slightly better conditions, so maybe we'll see some intermediate running this evening, but yeah, this is what we've been waiting for, isn't it? We've been having our fingers crossed for so long now for a potential wet race, and we've finally got it. So let's hope it serves us up another cracking race so far this season. We've had so many, as you can see. The guys, I do believe, are on the intermediate tyres. So yeah, all intermediate tyres for everybody. So it's going to be interesting to see, can they get enough of a dry line towards the end of a race where potentially somebody might brave it onto a set of slick tyres. Who knows how it's going to play out, but as you can see now, John Palana is leading the guys around the track ready to start this wet race.
Yeah, and as you say, it is that you can see there's a little bit of blue sky breaking through those clouds. So does anyone, with the rain slightly starts to abate, do they make that brave decision of going out onto slick tyres and trying to get a huge undercut on the rest of the field? It's always a very, very brave call to make it when it's still damp on track and you're just trying to get that jump ahead of everyone else. But Jumpalainen, he will be pretty happy with himself. He's got that clean air, that clean track all the way down to turn one, as he in fact runs off into the gravel on the exit of the second Lesmo there. And that's the second time in 2 weeks that we've seen the leading driver. We saw Hercules spin out of pole position last week on the way through to pole onto the grid on the formation lap, but Jumpalainen there just about burying that tyre into the gravel, gets away with it. But yeah, you can see the rain is still coming down, so don't expect to see them on slicks anytime soon. But Sab, running down to turn one, especially in Monza, where we've got 19 drivers heading down towards the Rettifidio in the wet, and this is where they've got to be really careful, of course, because as we said at the start, picking up wing damage early on it was just ruin your race, and you'd have to run around with severe, a track that's so downforce sensitive. They're gonna have to really tiptoe their way into the first lap.
They really are, and you don't want to late brake here, do you? Especially in the wet, because you could find yourself barreling into 2, 3 or 4, maybe even more cars. Hopefully we have a good start here where nothing like that happens and we get a clean getaway with good racing, because the last thing I personally want to see is people piling into each other at the start because of the wet weather. So fingers crossed is now they're lining up. I was just riding about Warren and now lining up on the grid. Let's hope we get a good getaway, and we hopefully see the battle between John Pine and Hercules we've been teased with so far this season.
As Giuseppe rolls into his grid spot, the final driver of 19 to find his grid slot. And you can see there those rain lights flashing, and they're going to illuminate as we head towards turn one. The engine notes are rising, and we're getting ready for the IRL F1 round 8 race here in Monza. The coats may be on in the stands, but in the race and in the cockpit, it's going to be red hot. And Jumpalainen sees the lights go off, and he's underway, and he's got a good. He's get along down towards turn one. It's a good start behind for Warislander. He's going to have to fend off the Alfa Romeo as the Alfa Romeo looks to go to the inside, but it's Jumpalainen that's got the jump on everyone as Hercules having to defend from Warislander. Waris not able to get up alongside Hercules, and those two have managed to get away unscathed, and it looks as though we've had a good start for everyone. Luke getting passed by Scott into turn one. Behind, Adri dropping down 5 position. Klaas having a great start. He moved up 3 as Beck equally. He's up 3 positions into 15th. There's a good start for everyone, Sab.
Yeah, unfortunately, it wasn't so good a start for Adrian Lockdock. He's lost 4 places. I think he just got squeezed out into turn in the first turn, and unfortunately lost him a fair few places. But yeah, like you say, it's good that everybody's got through unscathed to start with. Now let's see what's happened as John Polina. I missed that. I don't know if John Polina is in second place now, so I don't know exactly what happened there. But Hercules is now in the lead, and in the lead by half a second. So has John Polina outbraked himself or even run wide somewhere? But Hercules does run deep there, and now he's going to be under severe pressure from John Polina. Now, coming out of this Scari, John Polina's all over the back of that Red Bull now. Can John Polina get his position back? He sends it down the outside of the parabolic. Can he make it done round the outside? Surely not. This is going to be very brave. He's running quite wide now, and that's allowing Hercules to come back at him. But what a battle we've got already on the first lap between these two, and this is allowing Warrislander now to join in on this battle.
Here we go, side by side. We've talked about this, wanting to see this fight between John Polina and Hercules, but Warrislander is going to try and make it 3 as they head towards the Rettifilo. He's not going to be able to find himself a space, but Hercules and John Polina still fighting over the position. John Polina banging wheels with the Red Bull and the exit of Rettifilo, and yeah, both of us missed the move from Hercules to get the move done earlier. I was looking down through the table. I see behind there was Scott looking like he was dipping a tyre on the grass there, but still side by side for the Racing Point and the Red Bulls. We head down towards Della Rocha. John Polina still seems to hold on to it, but he's going to have to force the Red Bull across the rumble strips. But Hercules, he's probably going to have to give that position back there. He took to the runoff area and got the position. So if I was Hercules, I would think about giving up that position. But he's going to have to watch out, because Warrislander he goes deep into the gravel as well. So it's these guys really pushing hard on lap 2 of 27.
I think the reason why Hercules cut that corner was John Polina was pretty much sideways going through that corner, and there was just nowhere for Hercules to go apart from cut that corner. I was riding on board with Warrislander, and I could see John Polina was all out of shape going into there. So I think the safest option for us, Hercules, was just go that way, otherwise we would have hit the Racing Point. So the moment they're just about hanging on. So Meg Luppy, unfortunately, is out of the race. I'm not sure. Oh, he's lost it. I think he's lost it at Ascari. Yes, he has. I've just been riding on board White Fountain, and he's lost it on coming out of Ascari into the barrier on the left-hand side. And unfortunately, that is an early bath for the McLaren driver.
As Scott goes to the outside to try and get around the Alfa Romeo, can't get the move done. We've got Hercules bumping his way across the turn 1 sleeping policeman. He's picked up 3 seconds already, and yeah, he's struggling to get. He's struggled all evening to get the car slowed down into turn 1. John Polina now swarming the back end of that Red Bull as we head down towards Della Rocha, but this time he's decided he's going to try and stick to the track limits. And but John Polina, these two, I was trying to say earlier, we've been looking forward to having a battle between. We saw it in Britain very fleetingly towards the end of the race, but yeah, these two, some just absolutely mega pace between the two of them, and tonight they've got that added bonus of having to do it in the wet. And John Polina now coming up to Hercules behind. Can he pass him into Ascari? He's got the inside line as he gets towards the left-hander, and the Racing Point back up into the lead of the race, but Hercules still staying with him and taking with him the likes of Warrislander, Foxy and Scott. We've got a 5-way battle for the lead.
And we've also got a decent battle for 6th place at the moment as well. Harry managing to get past CP Alex. CP Alex has had a really scruffy lap, and that's allowed LER Luke now to get onto the back of the Toro Rosso driver. And this is also dragging along Sam as well in the Haas. Sam up 2 places at the moment in 9th place, but he'll be getting a good tow from this battle for 6th place at the moment. So yeah, we've got a great battle at the front, and we've also got a great battle further down for the minor points as well. So great battling everywhere.
Yeah, it's really going on. We're only on lap 4 of 27, and I will try and get myself down further out on the grid and find out what's going on with some of the other guys. Do not want to miss anything going on with the top 3 at the moment, because John Polina, Hercules and Warrislander are staying well within that second gap of each other, and unfortunately we won't have DRS with the rain coming down. But you can see just how close they're all staying as Hercules gets a good launch out of Della Rocha there. John Polina getting slightly on the power too early, kick the rear end of that Racing Point out there. You can see it's just about kicks up a little bit of grass, and the exit is there's Foxy Red falling down. He's side by side wide with Scott there. What happened to Foxy?
I honestly don't know. I was riding on board with Harry, and Harry nearly dipped it into the gravel, and that allowed CPI to come down the inside, but Harry just about held on to 6th place. Harry did very well not to completely lose the car there, and that's just brought CPI Alex, LER Luke, and Sam right on the back of him now, and he's got 3 cars chasing him now for 6th place. There's immense pressure here for Harry at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Great fun here. We've got 2 really close battles between the top 4, and behind we've got the Ferrari of Luke, who's running wide on the exit of Parabolica. Jumpalina does the fastest up, 30.763. Now have we got Warrislander trying to take down Hercules going into the Rettifilio. It looks as though he's trying to get closer. Can he get alongside? Not quite. He's going to have to wait for another lap. But here comes Alex to the outside of Harry into turn 1. He's not going to have the space there. He's going to have to line him up round the exit of Curve Grande and try and get the move done into the next corner. And it's still all going on between these guys here. Sam starting to think about a shot up the inside of Harry. And all whilst this is happening, Jumpalainen has broken that 1 second gap ahead of Hercules, and he's taken himself just about into a little bit of a comfort zone as Alex almost loses the Toro Rosso. He has to get right out of the throttle. Really nicely done there for the Toro Rosso driver, because that all looked like it was about to end in tears.
Oh dear, that was a heart in mouth moment. I've been watching this battle for so long now, and just at any point, one of 4 drivers have nearly lost the car, and Charlie, to be fair to Charlie, he's gained a couple of positions just because people are struggling to keep it on the track, and at the moment now he's right on the back of Sam, but this has allowed Harry to pull away from this battle. He's got a 1.2 second gap. As we know, there's no DRS in these conditions, and Harry now just starting, if he can now build a bit of a buffer to these guys, allow these guys to battle within themselves, it might allow Harry to ease some of that pressure off and focus on his own race. But at the moment now, Sam is leading the train of FPL Charlie, LER Luke, CPI Alex, and Klaska's not too far away either.
Scott moves up into 3rd position, a former no assist champion who has always liked racing around Monza, manages to get around the outside of Warrislander into turn 1. We've got a yellow in sector 3. It looks like it might be one of Giuseppe or Burmeister that was falling back there. But yes, Scott, great move to the outside. It was a late defensive move from the McLaren driver, but the Dutchman, Warrislander, nothing that he could do with Scott going around the outside. He had the position in towards turn 1 and turn 2. Scott can now chase down Hercules, and well, we thought that Scott was he'd had a relatively decent qualifying session. As we said, he's not had a very consistent season whatsoever compared to his usual standards, but this is much better from what we've seen from the former no assist champion, up to in the current podium position and chasing down the race leaders.
What a battle we've got here. What an absolute battle we've got here for 7th place. Charlie has managed to get ahead of Sam, and at one point they were nearly 3 wide going around the Lesmos, and as Klaska has picked for 3 seconds time penalty. LER Luke is pretty much pushing the Haas of Sam through Ascari. I don't know how they have not wiped each other out at the moment. LER Luke now is trying one down the outside heading into Parabolica. Sam trying to be as defensive as possible, but this is allowing CPI Alex now, after he had his Larry moment earlier, to come back, but Sam has run wide, and this has now allowed LER Luke to have a go at Sam, and that does promote LER Luke. LER Luke at the moment just about by nose hairs length away from keeping the lead. Can he keep it? Sam, who's going to be latest to the breakers, is Sam leaves it as late as possible. Too late though for him, and that allows LER Luke to get the position back, and that's drops Sam back into the clutches of Alex. What a battle we've got, down from 7th to 11th.
Switchback engaged for LER Luke. They're going into turn 1 and turn 2. Sam through the dummy, and in comes Luke, manages to get that switchback, and he moves back up into 8th position. As you say, fantastic battle going on between these guys, as we've got this battle still going on at the front between Warrislander and Scott, but we're sticking on board with this fight between LER Luke, Sam, Alex and Classic all there, and Infinity not that far behind Aquil. Of course, Infinity, he's picked up the pace ever since the start of the season, so actually much improved, and in the conditions that we've heard from one of the drivers that's already retired from the race, it's actually unfortunately picks up 5 seconds. Meg Lugby came in and said he thinks it's going to be intermediates throughout the race, so expect to see a one-stop race tonight on to another set of intermediates later in the session. Can we see Alex now as he peels to the inside going into the Parabolica? He's going to make the move upside the Spaniard as we go into the Parabolica. That's going to put him side by side down the main straight. Who gets the better exit? It's Alex that gets the better run, but Sam's now going to have the option of sitting in the slipstream of the Toro Rosso, and I think we're about to see roles reverse once again, because here comes Sam sitting in the tow. But in fact, Alex has had a really good run out of it, and he's managed to almost pull up to the back end of the Ferrari ahead, and as we see Sam having contact with the back of the Toro Rosso, just couldn't get the car slowed down. I believe the Toro Rosso was slow because he's managed to catch up to the Ferrari. This battle's still going on. We can see Sam side by side with Alex around Curva Grande, and in fact he's getting a good run on Luke as we head down towards De La Roja. Is he going to think about it? No, he's much smarter than that. He's got to pick your point there, and he just about gets the move done, but he does take the position away from Alex, so Sam and Alex swapping position over 9th and 10th once again.
It just shows you, doesn't it, how crucial it is to get away from a battle like this, because if you look at 7th place now, Charlie has already pulled out a 3-second gap to LER Luke because of this battling that these guys have been happening. So if you can get away, then suddenly you can find yourself having some clean air and focus on your own race and not having to worry about keeping it on the track and keeping it ahead of a car you're battling with. So this battle is proving to hurt these guys quite a bit at the moment, because at the moment they were all battling for 6th place. Now 6th place is a good 6 seconds up the road for LER Luke. So it's just showing you at the moment this hard battling, as fun as it is for us to watch, is really hurting those guys to be able to fight for the bigger points.
You could put a cigarette paper in between the gap between Infinity and Klasky on the main straight there, as the two are so close to touching on the way down. You can see the two cars moving around the straight, and Infinity has the inside line, but Klasky is further up the road and he's going to have to bail out of that one. And this fight is just incredible. You can see these guys fighting over, some of these guys aren't even fighting over points at the moment, and they're still going at it as Beck picks up 3 seconds, and we've got a yellow in sector 3. That may be for Beck in the Racing Point, as he's fallen to the back of the grid, and he does retire from the session in sector 3.
Yeah, he lost it out to Viscari, and the second victim of Viscari tonight in the wet, and unfortunately the front right wheel came off the Racing Point, and it's been a bit of a disappointing return for him in tonight's races. I'm just riding on board with John Polina as he sees his teammate car scattered all over the track there. Further ahead though, but Scott is doing well, isn't he? He's just keeping tabs onto the back of Hercules at the moment. So round a second keeps dipping under, but at the moment, if Scott can keep having a good race, he'll know that second place will be his, with Hercules still got that 3-second time penalty looming over him. And it just shows you, doesn't it, that wet weather just throws that bit of inconsistency, a bit of doubt in it, and tonight it's not been quite the race Hercules would have probably wanted.
Sam looking to the outside of Luke down the main straight. Can the Haas get the move done on the Ferrari? The Tifosi will be screaming at the Ferrari to keep the position. Can he keep it? He's going to be deep into turn 1. Is that going to compromise him on the exit of turn 2? No, Luke manages to hold on to it in 8th position, so it's a good race so far for Luke, but obviously you don't want to jinx it at all. Sam hounding the back end of him, but equally you've got Alex, Classy and Infinity still sticking with this trail of cars, and Sam goes to the outside now, trying to get the move done into De La Roja. He's going to go around the outside. He's going to take to the runoff area, and does he give up the position? He thinks about it. I think he was trying to give up the position, but that Luke tried to get back into the slipstream, but he does give the position back to the Ferrari, so the status quo is resumed with Luke leading from Sam in 9th position.
Meanwhile, just further ahead, Foxy has managed to outgun Warrislander, and Warrislander's now dropped down to 5th place. Foxy and Warrislander, I don't know how they didn't crash. They were literally wheel to wheel all the way round down to turn 3 and somehow managed to come out of it unscathed. Foxy went a little deep into Parabolica, which has allowed Warrislander to just bring it back a bit closer, but Warrislander is the first to pit. Warrislander into the pits. Lap 11, Warrislander into the pits. So it'll be interesting to see now, will the rest of the front runners be looking at Warrislander and thinking, is he going to try and undercut him? Will we have to come in?
Into the pits also comes the Ferrari of Eliar Luke, so he breaks away from this pack. We've currently got Infinity lining up the Alfa Romeo of Classica going down towards turn 1. Can he get the move done this time? No, once again, it's later on the brakes for the Alfa Romeo, who manages to outbrake the Renault, so he maintains that is now 9th position, but it is a stop for Warrislander, Luke and for Speed Queen. They are the first 3 into the box, lap 11 of 27 to go. So be thinking perhaps they stop early and we might get a dry period at the end of the race, because it's a very early stop with way more than half the race left to go.
It is an early stop indeed. The Speed Queen is also into the pits now. She's having a tough race this evening, also in that Toro. So I'm riding on board with her teammate CP Alex, who's still giving Sam a hard time. Sam now 6.5 seconds away from Charlie, and Sam will be, I think he'll be starting to get sick to death of having to battle this hard around the track. He'll be finding it tough enough as it is in these conditions, and he's pretty much battled with the entire field so far, Sam. And so now the next chapter is CP Alex's. Sam is pretty much tiptoeing his way through Ascari, and that's allowed CPI Alex to come at him now. CPI Alex is a lot more aggressive out of Ascari, and it's paid off for him, and that's allowed him to get into position. And now CPI Alex has jumped ahead of Sam, as we see Hercules and Boy Betano both into the pits as well. So as we see Sam also coming into the pits as well, so it looks like the time is now to pit.
Well, where do the likes of Scott and Hercules come out? Because they're going to come out just behind this battle going on between the Toro Rosso, the Alfa Romeo, and now the Renault, with Sam bailing out and deciding to try and get an undercut on these guys. As you can see, the Renault drifting around the first part of the Rettifilio there. But Alex, he did manage to get back past Sam. But we've got a side-by-side between Warris and I believe White Fountain behind. We'll go on board with Warrislander. Is he ahead of Fountain? He is fractionally ahead of the Belgian driver. Fountain not having a great race this evening. He's in 11th position, and with Warrislander wanting to chase down Scott, who unfortunately overtook him earlier in the race. And it's looking like at the moment Jumper Line, and he's got a healthy lead of 5.9 seconds over Foxy Red 2000, who's currently in 2nd position. Of course, Hercules came in last lap. He's in that position, 1 ahead of Scott.
Yeah, you'd imagine John Palainen, our race leader at the moment, will be thinking about pitting now if the guys behind him are. He doesn't. He's staying out for one more lap, so obviously he must be very comfortable with those tyres. We've got a yellow flag in. Oh, that's a shame for Klaska. Klaska was running well, and he looks like he's lost it out of Ascari. He's managed to get going again, but that's dropped him all the way down. I think he was up in 6th place, and unfortunately that's dropped him down well down the order. I don't know if he picked up any damage, and he's driving quite slowly, so I assume, yes, he's coming into the pit, so I assume he must have damage. So that's bad luck there for Klaska, because he was having a good race up until that point.
Foxy Red picks up a 5-second stop go for speeding in the pit lane. That could ruin his chances for a podium tonight and kick him out of contention for this race. That's a killer. Well, with so much left to go in the race to pick up an early penalty. We know that Hercules himself is sitting on a 3-second penalty that he picked up very, very early on. So it's currently looking pretty healthy for Jumpalainen, who's out on his own at the moment in the lead of the race. In the Racing Point, he's controlled it from the front as soon as he got back past Hercules, with those two swapping positions a couple of times early on in the opening stages of this race. But the Racing Point, the last remaining Racing Point, of course, with Beck 9000's retirement just a few laps ago, does he come into the pit lane this time around? He's got that 9-second gap, and in fact we'll see how much further he is ahead of the lights. He's got about a 26-second or 24-second lead over Hercules, so he's going to come out with a pretty nice gap between the pair of them. He's coming into the pit stall now. Can the Racing Point, as Harry follows him as well, does Charlie come in? So yeah, that is the top 3 on track coming into the pit stall. And Charlie, as we've got Infinity, is going to be the last one out on track. Does Infinity come in? No, Infinity will take the lead of the race for all of about 2.5 seconds, because Hercules, he's going to get the undercut on Jumperlinen, who had a slow stop, and Hercules back out by about not even a second, and that using that slipstream of the Renaults possibly helped him, as Warrislander picks up 3 seconds.
Well, I don't know what happened there. I wasn't checking out John Pline. I don't know if he got held up in the pit lane or what, but I did not expect John Pline to come out behind Hercules, and Hercules, who just about put in the fastest lap of the race as well. Scott manages to get ahead of Infinity, so Scott now back up into 3rd place. But yeah, that is fascinating. So now, can Hercules now build a gap? Because remember, he's got that 3-second time penalty. He's going to have to build a gap to Jumperliner. And Jumperliner 1.8 seconds as Warrislander and Foxy Red do get past Infinity as well. I think Infinity has got a problem. He's got a problem, and he's lost the car pretty much. He's got front wing damage as well. So unfortunately for Infinity, he's lost it somewhere, and this is going to just drop him all the way down. And that's just another terrible look. And unfortunately, just the conditions have bit another driver this evening.
Yeah, I would be interested to see if there was contact between Infinity or Warrislander and Foxy Red, because he was passed quickly as Giuseppe picks up another penalty there. Adri picking up another penalty. Those two collecting them like pogs this evening, unfortunately. So these Scott chasing down Jumperlinen now. So it's Jumperlinen under threat for 2nd position. He was looking very healthy in the lead. We've got Warrislander and Foxy Red swapping positions behind. Foxy now back up into 4th position, gets ahead of Warrislander. But yeah, Jumperlinen, who looked as though he was pretty comfortable in the lead, stayed out 3 laps longer than everyone else, and it's cost him time. Although those tyres will have a lot more life later in this stint, he's now dropped down 2 seconds behind Hercules, and he's got Scott, and look, we saw Scott, he's a man on a charge. He knows that he's got a couple of showings that he needs to make up for those early season woes that he's had. So Scott, he's not going to give any quarter in a fight. He knows that Jumperlinen's leading the championship, and it won't mean anything to him as a former champion. He'll want to get past the Finn and challenge for Hercules.
Just behind them, I think the Warrislander and Foxy are trying to create their own highlight reel at the moment. They've swapped positions yet again. Warrislander now back into the lead of this little battle, I should say. But Warrislander has picked up, I'm sure I've seen him pick up a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings earlier, so that'll be hanging over his head, similar to Hercules as well. But Foxy Red, he's not losing any ground on Warrislander. I wouldn't be surprised with just about 3/10 covering the pair of them. That's Foxy Red ends up ahead of Warrislander again within the next lap or two. It's been a fascinating battle. I've been watching these guys now for the last couple of laps, and they've done well to overtake each other and not getting any tangles so far.
It's Talladega Nights, isn't it? It's slingshot engaged. These two working together, getting in the slipstream, pulling themselves along, and hoping to catch up to Scott, who's starting to break ahead. He's got 3.5 second gap between himself and the McLaren behind him now, and Scott only 0.8 of a second behind Jumperlinen, who's taken 0.4 out of Hercules on that last lap. But you see here Foxy closing into Warris, but not able to get a move done into De La Rocha this time around. You can see behind as well that battle between Sam and Alex has restarted, and Alex in the Toro Rosso only 0.7 of a second behind the Spaniard in 9th position, fighting over the final points of the race. But it shows you just how committed these guys are to getting every single inch out of the race. But Foxy, 0.5 of a second, just under half a second behind Warrislander. He's going to try and stick with him through Ascari. And yeah, slick track, dirty air, having to concentrate. It's the worst combination you want in the exit Ascari, which is easy to lose control in the dry, let alone the wet. But he does it very nicely, stays well within the toe of the McLaren. He's getting closer and closer and closer. He's not going to be close enough to challenge into the Parabolica, but it looks as though he's going to have a decent run out of the Parabolica and line him up down the main straight and into into turn 1. Can the Alfa Romeo get the move done as jumper line? He's going faster. He's done 2 fastest laps in a row. It's now 1:29.5, and here comes Foxy back on the Warris Lander. Warris goes to the inside line, covers it off very, very late indeed. That was, I'm sure Foxy Red will be saying a few choice words behind his helmet there as Warris came across just about as Foxy was alongside him there. So yeah, that's a very close one from the McLaren driver, and I'm sure Foxy in the Alfa Romeo had to get off the power a little bit earlier than what he thought, and had to line himself up, but he's having to stick behind the Dutchman once again as jumper line now 1.4 seconds back from Hercules. We've got 10.5 laps left to go in the Italian Grand Prix.
I think Scott's had a moment. He's now 2.5 seconds behind Jumpalainen now, so he's clearly had an issue, ran deep or ran wide somewhere, but now 2.5 seconds behind Jumpalainen, and that is now allowing Jumpalainen to focus on catching Hercules, because before, as you could see, Jumpalainen was getting harried by that Mercedes, but now Jumpalainen has built a gap. He can now fully focus on Hercules, and Hercules will definitely not have wanted to see that. He was probably hoping that that battle had carried on, as like we've seen earlier in the race, how costly it was when we've seen cars battling so hard, as we see Warris Lander and Foxy Red close once again. It's CPI Alex, that's desperately unlucky. He's got a 3-second time penalty there, but yeah, I was right on board with Foxy Red when Warris did that late move, and yeah, I wouldn't be surprised either if there was a few choice words. But can now Foxy Red get the move done again? He's going to try it down the inside, down to turn 1. Can he get it done this time? Surely, you would imagine. But it's the one who breaks the latest, just about keeping it there. He's sticking it round the outside. They bang wheels slightly, but Foxy Red retakes 4th place, and now he'll be having Warris Lander trying to do the same to him.
He's our very own Max Verstappen, Warris Lander, isn't it? That young Dutchman. He does not give any any mind about who you are, where you're coming from. He's going to defend as hard as he can. He pushed as hard as he could to try and hold on to that position with the Alfa Romeo going around the outside into turn 2. And unfortunately, he's back down into 5th position. He's going to have to start again. Almost runs out wide on the exit. The first Lesmos. Luke picks up 3 seconds. So unfortunately, Luke's race, he qualified very well. He was running up nicely, but he's down in 8th position now as Hercules picks up a second 3-second penalty. That's 6 seconds that the German will contend with at the end of this race, and he's only got a 1.1 second. There's Foxy Red who picks up another 3 seconds. That adds to his 5-second one as well. So the guy's starting to struggle with track limits, and well, jumper line, and he's kept it nice and clean. Scott's kept it nice and clean. Currently, Hercules under threat from falling back to almost 4th position currently.
Scott, I don't know if you've seen it, but Scott did pick up a 3-second time penalty. I think it was on the last lap. So Scott also running there with the 3-second time penalty. And just thinking about it, the likes of Harry and Charlie, who I don't believe have got any time penalties, if they can try and up their game slightly, there is potential gains on positions here for maybe 5th and 4th place for those guys. So at the moment, it's just showing how tricky these conditions are, because from sitting here now, the track doesn't look too bad, but it's getting into that position now, isn't it? It's a little bit dry, it's a little bit wet, and it's in between tyres, isn't it? It's a bit of intermediates, it's a bit of slicks, and it's just trying to find that balance and trying to keep the car on the track at the moment, as it's proving with the time penalty starting to linger through as we get into the deeper end of this race. But yeah, John Palainen is slowly, isn't he, starting to reel in Hercules. 1.1 seconds at the moment. So at the moment, John Palainen is looking set for yet another race victory this evening.
As White Fountain moves up past Speed Queen down into turn 1, and of course White Fountain, who celebrated his 50th career race here at Invictus with a 3rd place finish last week in Bahrain, as Klasky picks up another 3 seconds. He's fallen back to 13th, which is a shame because he was running up very nicely indeed, involved in that battle between Infinity, Sam and Alex very early on in this race. But Fountain now up into 11th position, but still way out of the points. We've still got Warris Lander. We'll go back on board with the Dutchman as he's still looking at the back end as Fountain picks up 3 seconds, but Warris still looking at the back end of that Alfa Romeo heading down towards turn 1. He's getting closer. He doesn't look like he's going to be close enough to make a move this time around. He's not quite, but the McLaren just sitting in the toe of that Alfa Romeo trying to pick his point, but this is where you need to use your smarts as a driver. You don't want to make any rash moves. No, of course, these guys running no assists here in the IRL F1 League, so no ABS for them to fall back on. You don't want to push yourself using all that brake pressure and locking up, because you'll find yourself going into the back of the car in front, and not only will you find yourself with a lack of front wing, I'm sure you'll find yourself with a very angry driver in front at the end of the race.
Yeah, most definitely. As John Palainen now, I've been watching him for the last lap or so, and he's really reeling in Hercules now. It's down to less than a second, 0.8 of a second. Hercules will be feeling the pressure now of the Racing Points gaining and gaining on the back of that Red Bull. You could also already imagine the Jaws theme music being played as the Racing Point is hunting down that Red Bull. But I think at the moment it's hard to see past John Palainen at the moment. He looks the smoothest, he looks the most comfortable. Hercules, yes, is currently in the lead, but it's just been a bit ragged, a bit rough around the edges for Hercules tonight, and unfortunately it looks like at the moment time penalties are going to cost him, as he's pretty much drifting into turn 1 there, and that's allowed John Palainen to get even closer.
John Palainen's 0.5 of a second behind the German in the Red Bull, who's currently leading the race, but he's got tyres that are 2 laps fresher. Of course, he was undercut in on the track, but he's managed to reel in the German once again, and with Scott falling back, as you said, after possibly making that mistake, it means that he's just been able to focus on putting these laps in, and the Finn is really starting to hassle Hercules, and this is where Hercules needs to think about his driving, because you want to be focusing on what's going on ahead. You don't want to be missing your braking points, but if you're looking in your mirrors and looking around you, obviously you're not paying full attention to what's coming up ahead of you. So this is where Hercules really needs to get that game face on and get back in the groove, because you can see there he's made up 0.3 of a second in this last sector, so he's got a little bit of breathing space, gets out of, tries to break the toe there as the Racing Point dives back into it. You can see on the exit of Ascari, cuts across the track, but John Palainen, it does, as you say, look as though he's really starting to close in on the Red Bull driver. We've got 7 laps left to go in the race, Sab. Who have you got your money on for this one?
I don't want to obviously jinx, but you would have to say John Palainen at the moment is dead set on claiming victory at the moment. I was just working it out. By my calculations, Hercules, I think, will stay second if when John Palainen jumps ahead of him, because Scott has a 3-second time penalty. With Hercules' 6 seconds, Scott is more than 3 seconds behind John Palainen at the moment, so it would imagine that he would stay second. As I'm riding on board now with CP Alex and Sam, and once again we get a superb battle. CP Alex has got a very good run out of the final corner and down into turn 1. CP Alex gets the move nicely done on the Haas driver of Sam, and I just want to say as well, it's been a tough evening, hasn't it, for the Haas team in general. Down in 10th and 11th, they usually find themselves at the very front of the grid fighting for the big points, and this weather and this track has just not really suited them tonight.
No, absolutely not. As Alex bumps his way over the runoff area, then that's going to cost him some time. Sam looking to go around the outside into the Lesmos, that would be a brave move, but Alex managing to hold on to the position as Warris picks up another penalty. So yeah, as we were saying, everyone's struggling coming towards the latter stages of this race, as Alex just about managed to break a little bit of a gap between himself and Sam. But yeah, that 2 Haas drivers surprisingly not doing as well this evening as we first thought they might do. They're currently leading the Constructors' Championship by 16 points to the Williams team, and although Harry, he's only making up a handful of points in 6th position at the moment, so they're not losing a whole load. But of course, John Palainen equally is only 20 points further back, so he's currently sitting on 12 points for second place finish. But of course, with Hercules, as Adri unfortunately retires from the race, and that's one of the Renault drivers down. Infinity, unfortunately, after running so well early in the race, is in 15th position. But yeah, the Racing Point team, John Palainen and Beck 9000, are 20 points behind the Hasses, and with the Haas currently only making 1 point, jumping line, and it's the Warislander just about holds on to it, and he's going to lose himself a lot of time. It's dropped him a second and a half, almost 2 seconds back, and you can see there he seems to be struggling with tyre temperatures here, because he's really struggling to get the power down as the McLaren driver coming out of the second Lesmo. He's now almost 2 seconds behind Foxy Red after that tricky second sector.
Would that be the earlier pit stop affecting Warislander now? Might he have took too much out of those tyres and not looked after him so much, and now starting to feel the effects of it? With 4 laps to go, you wouldn't be surprised. It's been a tricky race. It's trying to find the balance of pushing, when to push and when to look after the tyres. So maybe the Inters now are just starting to struggle for the McLaren drivers. John Polina is just putting on a bit of a masterclass tonight, isn't he, with the fastest laps, as he sets yet another fastest lap, but still only half a second behind. And he just has to play it sensible now, doesn't he? He doesn't need to do anything stupid. No silly dives down the inside of Hercules. He knows Hercules has got these 6 seconds worth of time penalties. Yes, it would be better for him is in his ego to cross the line first, but if he crosses the line behind Hercules, he's still going to gain first place. So in these conditions especially, you just don't want to do anything silly, do you? Not with this close to the checkered flag now. You just want to make sure you get it safely across the line and make sure you pick up the maximum points you can.
Absolutely, that is what you've got to be thinking. You've got to think about it rationally when it comes to it, and he's just sitting behind Hercules. He's not making any silly decisions when it comes to throwing it down the inside. He can just stay behind the German, and if he wants to overtake on track, he's got plenty of time left to do it. We've got 3 laps left to go as Sam pits from 10th position, so he's dropped down to 13th and out of a points paying position. So that's promoted Fountain up into the points in 10th position, so the Haas still hold on to that 1 point placed finish at the moment. But yeah, here comes Jumperline, and 4/10 of a second behind Hercules. Does he get a good run? And as you can see, we were seeing that Warislander stopped. It was the first one to stop with Luke. 13 laps on those intermediates, and he's starting to, although he's made up a little bit more time on Foxy ahead, he's back up to a second. But Warislander, he along with Scott and Hercules, 13 laps they've done on those intermediate tyres. So this is where Jumperline's got to make up for the fact that he had that longer first stint, and he is really starting to hassle for Hercules. You can see that getting on the power. You can see the throttle being put down in the Racing Point, really bouncing off the limiter in 4th and 5th gear there. So he just about got on the throttle, maybe just a tenth or two too quickly, locks up the tyres into De La Roja, but he's managing to stay with the Red Bull. Hercules trying to break the toe where he can, even the entry to the Lesmos he's pulling to the inside line, and with the rain still coming down, we can see the blue sky still poking through those clouds, but the rain is still coming down, so I don't think we're going to see us go to dry conditions. And Jumperline and just losing a slight bit of control on the exit at the second Lesmo there. That's allowed Hercules to get a little bit further up the road in towards Ascari. And really, it's concentration now, because at the end of the race, you've been paying attention to what's been going on around you, in front of you, behind you. You do not want to lose it this late in the race if you're the likes of Jumperline or even Scott, who's currently just... what's going on, Sab?
Sorry, Warislander again. Similar to a lot of people, I apologise for interrupting. I thought Warislander had lost it outside of Ascari. He had to get out of it completely. He was just under a second behind Foxy Red, and he was sideways coming out of Ascari, just about held onto the car, and it snapped back into the track for him, and he managed to get back underway again. But Warislander was so close to completely losing the car there. He did very, very well to hold on to it.
It's 1.7 seconds back from Foxy, but he's not lost that much time to Harry there, so Harry not able to make up for it, and equally Harry on much fresher tyres as well, as Jumperline and still hassling the battle between himself and Hercules. But we've been wanting a battle between these two, but it's looking though it's a lot more tactical than what we first saw. We thought we'd see a lot more overtaking and moves, but obviously without the DRS, these two having to think about it way more tactically, way more just putting your car in the right positions, try and make it as wide as you can on track, and they're having to use that raw pace of themselves and the car to get past each other. Currently jumper line in 0.3 of a second behind Hercules. He's got a good run here out of Ascari, which is going to give him a good run up the back straight towards the Parabolica. You can see they're trying to break the toe once again. Hercules moves to the left hand side of the track, and he made up about 0.2 of a second on the exit of Ascari, but jumper line once again having much better braking into these corners, and he got it down to 0.4, but as you can see, Sam picks up there 3 seconds, and jumper line really trying to stay with the Red Bull that's just moving from side to side, trying to break the toe where he can. Jumper line again, much closer. Can he have a lunge this time? No, he thinks better off it. He slows backs off on that throttle pedal onto the brake a little bit earlier, sticks in behind the Red Bull, but he's close. But is this a case of the fact that he knows that Hercules has got that penalty? We're on lap 27 of 27 now. He doesn't need to pass him if he doesn't need to. It's going to be close. He's going to stick behind. See, every driver's ego wants to come across the line first, but it looks, Scab, as though we're going to have Line crossing the line as second place, but your winner.
Yeah, you'd imagine now he's just going to play a sensible game on the last lap. And I just want to point out as well, some of the better movers this evening. Charlie's made up 6 positions tonight. He's having a decent race, and he's managed, it's going to be too late for him, but he's managed to claw back positions on Harry. It's less than 2 seconds now. And also, Klaska has made up 5 positions as well. He's just outside the points, a second outside the points from Speed Queen. So a couple of good races there at the moment. As Foxy Red, Scott has had a moment. Scott has had a moment somewhere. I don't know if you caught that, but Scott is off in the gravel at Ascari, and that has promoted Foxy into the podium place with Warrislander not far behind, and Scott desperately unlucky. And this is going to allow Harry to come past, and now Scott's teammate Charlie to come past. What on earth has happened to Scott there?
Oh, we were saying how hard it is to keep your concentration until the end of the race. Is it a puncture? It looks like it is. You can see he's lost the back end. He goes into the wall on the parabolic, and he's going to struggle to. Foxy Red drops off of the podium. That's promoted Harry back up onto the podium. Still on track. He's coming up to the exit of the parabolic. He's in 8th position at the moment. It's frustration for the Englishman. He's lost lost the front end plate. He's going to get passed by Fountain, who's moved up his position because of all this. Is in 5th. Warrislander got up into 5th, but you can see that outside the points, it's the worst way. We saw it last with Sam when he picked up that last lap puncture, and in the wet it multiplies it by it's just absolutely annihilated it. But yeah, that's a real unfortunate one for Scott.
You sounded like you just had a few mic issues there, so I'll just carry on speaking while you may sort that. But congratulations to John Palainen. He played the sensible game in the end, didn't he? No need to go silly and try and send one down the inside of Hercules. Hercules, it's his first race. He's not come first home in. He obviously disappointed in that, but second place is still a good result for him. And Harry, I think he'll be pleasantly surprised to be sitting on the podium. He was having his own race in the end, all on his own, and suddenly, because of the issue with Scott there at the end, it's allowed him to get promoted up into 3rd place because of Warrislander, who also had time penalties along with Foxy and Charlie as well, getting promoted up there as well. And like I said early in the race, if those guys could keep it clean and not pick up the penalties, there might be opportunities for them to just steal a few places, and so it's proven tonight.
Yeah, sorry for the technical difficulties, guys. It was unfortunately, we will try and get that rectified as soon as possible. Hopefully for the new season I might be able to get myself a new microphone. But yeah, it is a fantastic result for Jumper Line, who kept it clean throughout the entire race, manages to get past Hercules. Unfortunately, those penalties relegate him back to 2nd position. Harry will be delighted to get back up on the podium once again. That's another podium for the Williams driver, which he'll be very happy with. That's a 2nd in a row for him after finishing 2nd in Bahrain, and a 4th of the season. But there you go, Jumper Line in 41 minutes and 17 seconds is the winner. He goes from flag to flag, technically, although finishing 2nd on track. And the Finn wins ahead of Hercules in second position, and in fact, I believe, that's almost look at that time for Hercules, a perfect 1:30 flat for your fastest lap there. Harry in third position, Warris Lander in fourth, Charlie in fifth, Foxy in sixth, Alex in seventh, with White Fountain in eighth, Speed Queen in ninth. Sam rounds out the top 10, and then you've got Class Kid, Burmeister, Scott. And Luke and Giuseppe were the last ones classified. Unfortunately, Infinity finished a lap down with Agilocdoc, Beck and Meg Lugby not making it to the end of the race. And Sab, we've been asking for a wet race for the entire season. We got one. Did it live up to the hype?
It did, yes, but the only thing I was slightly disappointed was the fact that because of Hercules got those time penalties, it didn't give us the dramatic end we might have seen, because if Hercules didn't have those time penalties, John Polana may have had to have had a go at Hercules at the end. But apart from that, we had a superb battle. The battle early on in the race, like I was talking about, 6th down to 10th, was absolutely superb. I don't know how they didn't wipe each other out. Superb battle as well between Foxy and Warris, and unfortunately for those guys, they were costly because of time penalties that allowed Harry to gain from that. But overall, the wet race, I don't think disappointed. I don't know what you think, but I could certainly welcome more wet races this season.
Yeah, absolutely, and I'm sure you've got a lot of questions to ask the guys whilst I try and fix up my mic a little bit further for the end of the stream. But yeah, it was a fantastic race. It was always good to see these guys in the rain, just how much they can push, and we saw as well in qualifying in that heavy rain condition that it took something spectacular to keep it on the track, and unfortunately it was Jumper Line that manages to do it with by just about getting ahead of Hercules on track at the end on penalty, sorry. And but yeah, Hercules I'm sure will be disappointed with that. But yeah, Sab, have you got questions? We've got the three guys into the interview box now.
We have them here now. Yes, I'd just like to ask you, make sure you've got all your mics set to allow voice to be shared before we start, and then I'll get stuck into it. I'd just like to start off with tonight's race winner, John Polainen. He was superb in the wet tonight, you would have to say, qualifying fastest. He found himself behind Hercules after the pit stop phase, but played it sensible in the end and claimed the victory. How was the race tonight for you? It certainly looked tricky out there.
Yeah, it definitely was, especially at the start when you didn't know how the track would feel or how fast you could go through the corners. It was a bit better, or less water than in quali, so yeah, it was tricky and really fun. The first few laps battle with Hercules when we were side by side into every other corner pretty much. And yeah, it was a good race, really good one.
Yeah, it definitely looked a really good race, and I just want to move on to Hercules, second place. We've not said that this season. You've been absolutely superb so far this season. It looked really tricky out there for you, and unfortunately, a couple of time penalties ended up costing you the race victory. But are you pleased overall with second place, or do you think first place, you should have had first place tonight?
No, because I made too much mistakes. I did no wet lap at all before the race. I don't know why, to be honest. So I just, put on a setup and had a go. But yeah, I think my straight line speed was too low, and so the setup wasn't suited for me at all. And in the race, I was really struggling and got corner cuts before I was really struggling on the brakes. So at the end, John Polainen did a better job and deserved to win. And yeah, I'm really happy to be second after that race. I wasn't feeling confident at all.
Well, yes, I agree. Second place, as long as you keep it on the track, especially in these conditions, it's certainly a challenge just to keep the car pointing forward. And just moving on to Harry. Harry, congratulations on third place. No offence, but I didn't expect to see you in this chat this evening. Surprised to see Scott with the puncture at the end, which allowed you to get promoted up into third. How was the race for you? Because from large parts of it, it looked like you were just having a race of your own.
Yeah, I think the least deserved podium. I think maybe I think our sixth started the last lap. Scott, I mean, that's just really, really unlucky. I feel bad for him. And then I knew Waterland had 6 seconds and the gap was about 5.4. So I was just trying so hard. But yeah, I couldn't believe it when I came across the line third. But I suppose my pace was nowhere. But when you're not very quick, you just have to try and take the most points you can and somehow just about taking a podium. So yeah, unbelievable, really.
Well, sometimes you just got to have a bit of luck, haven't you? And picking up the third place when you don't feel like you deserve one, sometimes it feels even better. It feels like a victory in itself. And I just want to move back on to John Pillane, and it's another victory for yourself. We move, I think it's to Singapore next. How are you feeling for that race, and can you keep this form going and keep these wins progressing towards that first championship in this league?
Yeah, I'll definitely try. Singapore is a fun track, but I know Hercules is super quick in the dry. It posted its quali time from Italy, like 85 in the dry, and I'd be very happy to get into the 18s, so it's gonna be hard to match him in dry races at least. So hoping to bring home some podiums, some points, and maybe get a win here or there.
Cool. Well, congratulations to all three of you. It was a superb race to watch. I definitely recommend you guys watch it back if you can. And just to swiftly move on to you, Gareth. Hopefully all mics are all okay now. How was it for you, and what was your opinion on these three tonight?
I mean, it was a fantastic race from the three of them. As you said, it was surprising to see Harry on the podium, but that position moves him up into second in the championship. And with Jump Line and stretching that lead out with the likes of Foxy and Charlie dropping points, it's looking as though Jump Line is heading towards a first championship here in IRL. So it's been a fantastic first season for him. And but with Harry in second position, you've got Hercules has now jumped up into third as well. So it's there's still to play for, but it is definitely looking as though it's going to swing towards the fin if you can get a good result in Singapore next week. And so congratulations, guys. Fantastic result for all three of you. You're welcome to head off if you're ready, and we'll just wrap up tonight and let you know what's going on for the rest of the week here in Invictus. And of course, Tuesday nights is the Realistic Performance League. You can find that tomorrow 8 p.m. here with Tim and Malc in the commentary box. Once again, they'll be here at the Temple of Speed Monza for their Italian Grand Prix as part of the Realistic Performance League. Wednesday night, you've got the IRL F2 and F3 equal performance races, of course, and that will be Dan and the Warisland, of course, this evening's one of the drivers finished in sixth position, I believe, and he will be with Dan covering F2, Tim and Malc covering F3 once again on Wednesday night. You can find them both on the channel live from 8 p.m. So make sure, if you're not already, to click subscribe and click the bell notification to be notified every time we go live with a new video. And equally, if you're enjoying the races, guys, if you're enjoying what Sab and I are bringing you, or if you're enjoying any of the other races that any of the other commentators across Invictus are bringing you, make sure you click that like button on the video. It helps us massively when it comes to getting our videos pushed forward to different and non-subscribed members. But we hope you've enjoyed it, guys. And Sab, you asked my opinion on the race, and I'll throw it back to you as we wrap up on it. And it was a wet qualifying session. It was the first one we've seen for a while, and then equally it was a race of attrition towards the end, because it was just keeping it on track, it was keeping it clean, and that was something that Jump Alana did very nicely.
He certainly did, and similar to what I was saying earlier, as same goes with Harry. Even though he says he wasn't so quick tonight, he kept it clean, and that ultimately got him the podium, didn't it? So it's just about, I know it's easier said than done, it's just about trying to keep it on the track, keep the car pointing forward, and you will score some decent points. The wet race overall didn't disappoint, and certainly the wet qualifying didn't disappoint. I personally cannot wait for more to come. I'm sure these guys probably would prefer a much drier race next time out, but this race was absolutely superb to watch. Like, throughout the whole field, I spent most of my time not watching the front because of the battles further at the back. It was just one of those races where you just couldn't keep your eyes off it.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's something we always expect here in the IRL F1 League. We've had a season of just sublime races so far. So yeah, these drivers have got to, you've got to take your hats off to them, because they've provided us with some excellent races. We've obviously the viewers have been really enjoying it. We've seen that with the views, and with the feedback we've been getting. So yeah, they've really ramped up the pace this season, and we've got plenty more racing left to go to, and for the end of the season. So make sure you catch it all on Monday night here with Sab and I. And of course, you can go to our socials, Invictus RL on Twitter and Instagram, Invictus Racing League on Facebook, where you can find all race highlights, photo albums, hot laps, qualifying laps, and general discussion all about the leagues. And of course, you can go to the website invictusracingleague.com to get yourself on the grid for next season, which will be coming up and approaching. And then equally, if you're a member of of Invictus and you'd like to become a premium member, make sure you go to the premium membership section on the website. Of course, you can go there, find yourself a couple of extra benefits for signing up for it, and equally go to the website and check out what we've got coming up towards the end of the game for a community event. So make sure you check that out on the website. We've got a fun little event going on. So if you are interested, make sure you register your interest on the website. And yeah, that is us done for this evening and for round 8 here. The Invictus Racing League IRL F1 League will be back next Monday in Singapore over at the Marina Bay circuit. But for Sab and I, for this week and for the F1 League, we hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you next week. Have a great one. We'll see you later.